Hello and welcome back to Heart and Soul's Yoga Life channel. My name is Henrike, and today I want to discuss with you a whole bunch of ways, 10 ways of protecting your energy. The reason why I'm making this video is that someone really close to me the other day received an SMS from like an old housemate, not a close friend, but an old housemate who had a bit of a hiccup in their own life and had an emotional, angry outburst at that person close to me. And I could watch them being drained of their energy, getting really stressed, getting really upset. And I remembered that there's been many occasions in my own life where I have gotten spun out by other people's anger, by other people's stress. And then not even a day later, one of my clients had a situation with one of her children who she had made an agreement with, and that agreement wasn't being upheld. And so that child stormed out, banged the door, and basically just said, I won't do what you're asking me to do. And again, I could see someone being incredibly emotionally drained from a very emotional interaction with another person, which sparked the idea, let's look at ways, at options of how to minimize us being so affected, how to minimize the impact that interactions like this can have on us. The aim here not being so much that we don't care. You don't want to become the kind of person who just doesn't care and doesn't give a S about what other people do or say or think. It's about finding ways of watching other people's actions and behaviors and not taking it so incredibly personal and not taking it on so that it can drain our energy by really spiking our adrenaline, spiking our cortisol. So let's have a look at a bunch of things we have put together for you. Number one, really simple one, choose your people. I know when it comes to your own kids, that's not necessarily possible, but when it comes to friendships, to acquaintances, to people that you let into your life, I often see that with clients, that they have difficulty, that they have upsets with friends. And there really what I found really valuable is to define friendships into the really inner circle, then in the outer circle where you are friends but you don't share everything, and into people who are just acquaintances, almost like a gold, silver and bronze type of level. And to really define what are the things I share with the people that are really close to my heart, that I can trust 100%, that I know will stick up for me no matter what. What do they get to see and how do I show up with them? Then how do I show up with those people in this slightly outer circle who are good friends and I'm getting on with, but they are probably not the people I would share my most intimate secrets with? And what's the kind of information, what's the kind of stuff that I do with people who are just acquaintances and in this very outer layer? Thereby, you can make sure that you protect what's closest to you and you protect yourself from falling into the trap of being really, really hurt by someone in those circles. The next one is, and it always comes back to that, to have and to hold boundaries. You often see that we are catering to someone else's every whim. Especially as parents, we can be doing that our kids ask us something, okay, we do, and we run out to do it. Or we are having a new partner, even sometimes an old partner, and they have ideas, they have expectations, and we are always forthcoming in helping them out and supporting them. So the thing is, so you need to define your own power, you need to define your boundaries and set real clarity on what is it that I'm doing and what is it that I'm not doing. What am I willing to, where am I willing to go that extra mile and where do I not want to? Am I acting from a place of I should, or am I acting from a place where I actually want to give? Because often when we are coming from a place of I should constantly, we inside ourselves have resentment building. And then when the other person says something, it might not even be a wild accusation, but they behave in a certain way, we can get really, really upset with them because we've built up a level of expectation that potentially we shouldn't have had because we didn't make those clear mutual agreements. In the same way, I would also suggest that you learn with boundaries that no means no, for them as well as for you. That it is perfectly fine to say, look, I'm so sorry, I can't show up for you tonight. Look, I'm so sorry, I can't cook for your friends if you want to bring them over in a couple of days. If you want that, you need to do that yourself. There's a whole set of situations where that applies. So clear boundaries within your life. And at the same time, and this is number 3, curb your own expectations of others. This is from family and friends. This is from your boss. This is from acquaintances, etc. It's like if you are not having clear boundaries, you will often also not have them on the receiving end, and you will build up those expectations of other people. Maybe you've been going the extra mile for others, but they are not doing the same. And maybe that's okay. Maybe there weren't clear disagreements. Maybe there weren't clear agreements, and therefore you are now disappointed. The disappointments happens when there is a mismatch between the expectations that you had and the stuff that's actually happening. And that doesn't necessarily mean that that's someone else's fault. Clearly, there hasn't been an agreed upon outcome. There hasn't been a clear agreement about what you are both thinking and feeling and saying. So then maybe there, to come back to your own circle of influence where you hold your power, you can learn from this situation to make clearer agreements. Really, really important one anyway. Now come 2 that are almost opposed. My point number 4 is get angry. Obviously, that doesn't mean kicking and screaming and yelling at other people and becoming a fury in that sense. But it is about noticing when you are upset yourself, noticing when you are angry. It's about protecting your energy. And anger is almost like a stop sign or a signpost that signals a boundary violation. Somebody has overstepped the line. Somebody has hurt you. Somebody has trodden on one of your feet. So in noticing that you are angry, obviously you want to be able to express that in a resourceful, hopefully kind and compassionate way. But it means learn to be firm as well. Like I said before, no means no. Don't let someone else overstep again. Other people may be pushing, and yes, we don't like that. But it doesn't mean that just because they push, we have to fall over. We can just as well, with equal measure, push back and hold our own ground. And yes, that might be a challenge for you. And yes, that might not be something that you have been socialized in your family of origin or in your society to do. But that's then your learning journey to do that next. So getting angry, and then opposed to that is my 5th point of advice: soften into humility as well. Because sometimes, just sometimes, the other person actually might have a point. And I know that from my own past and own situations. Sometimes that inner being drained of energy when somebody is criticizing or somebody is telling me clearly that something is not okay, that they are upset with me, sometimes that has meant that I did the wrong thing. And of course, I can become defensive and I can get upset and angry at them and I can lash out. Or I could at least take a few minutes to really clearly look at, is there a grain of truth in what they are saying? Is it maybe in this time a case where I did the wrong thing? I overstepped a line, I didn't do what I set out to do. And is there in some way a grain of truth? Along with that also comes, did the other person mean to attack, or are they maybe just giving me feedback? And that doesn't always mean that they're doing it in the right way. Somebody might be upset, but it might be feedback in that. And I know that sometimes there can be cultural differences. Me being German, I'm very direct. I'm sometimes really just cut to the chase, no beating around the bush, no polite sugarcoating talk. And I know that in other cultures, that's not what people do. And people can feel attacked by that. It took me a couple of years to catch up with this, and I still sometimes overstep the line. So for the people on the receiving end of that, it would mean look twice. Does that person really mean to attack you? Or are they just having a very straightforward and direct way of saying so? And obviously to me, on the giving end in that case, it means, well, learn to communicate better. If you see that the results aren't really working out and you're not getting out of the communication what you wanted, but you just have someone angry and upset on the other side, maybe it's something that you need to learn to deal with in a better way. Anyway, so humility versus anger, like step up and truly protect yourself, versus listen, hear, and see whether there's a grain of truth. Both might be appropriate in different contexts. The next one is a technique actually that I have seen in different contexts. In particular, it was given to my son by his psychologist when he was being bullied, and I found that quite valuable. It was to visualize armor. Some people, I've seen it in kinesiologists also say, visualize your own aura, almost like an orb of light around you. So whatever it is that rings true for you in terms of protecting your energy. If you want to visualize an orb of light, it's a great idea to close your eyes, breathe a couple of times, relax, and then visualize that light around you, and visualize things, attacks that come from the outside, not being able to penetrate that and to almost vanish into the light, whilst your own strong positive energy can still reach outside. And when I do this kind of work under hypnosis with people, we will often then also really look at what colors does it have, how does it function, how does it feel, and how close to you is it, or how far away is it. A lot of people find that it's around an arm's length from them where they visualize that field, and that field feels really good and really healthy and protective. And for my son, it was armor. It was literally like visualizing himself as a knight and having the armor that the nasty comments he was getting from some of the kids at school couldn't penetrate and hurt him. So that can be a technique that can be really valuable, and it would obviously then take some discipline to do that regularly. The next one is an approach that would come from our spiritual tradition. So number 7 is practice compassion. You can find this in almost any spiritual tradition, from Christianity to the Quran to say Buddhism, Hinduism, etc., that there's some form, or Taoism as well, some form of practice around extending compassion towards other people. And there is a saying that we have in coaching: hurt people hurt people. Like if you are hurt, from that hurt you might be lashing out at others. So in terms of protecting your energy, you might be hurt by someone who is already being hurt. So sometimes it can be really helpful to look at that person, visualize that person, if it's been via email or via SMS, or even just comments on social media that can sometimes be really hurtful as well, to visualize those kind of people who are doing this and visualize them as your brothers or your sisters, as your children who are hurt, who have gone through a lot, and who are in a position where they're acting as children. If you have children, you know what it's like when your 2-year-old throws a temper tantrum. There's a reason why it's called the terrible twos. When your 2-year-old has a temper tantrum, say in the supermarket in the chocolate aisle because you're not buying what they want, you are likely not to take that personal and not to let that fully drain your energy. Yes, it's exhausting, and yes, it's frustrating, but it's not very likely to really get to you. Because you look at that red little screaming face and you know it has nothing to do with you. That's them, and them not knowing yet how to regulate their emotions. And there's a whole, developmental stage behind that. So it has nothing to do with you. So what if you could extend that sort of feeling, that sort of vibe towards those other people? And yes, they might be 2-year-old toddlers in adult bodies. But the way that they behave, especially if I think back to that SMS that I mentioned in the start, that person close to me got, that really hurt them, that was someone in an adult body having a 2-year-old temper tantrum and too much alcohol. So in that sense, that means, can you in some way find it in you to extend compassion and look at that person as hurt, as grieving, as upset, as going through a dark time in their life, and rather than being hurt and upset, find it in you to be compassionate towards them. If you can truly tap into compassion in your body, again, sometimes it's all about closing your eyes, visualizing that person with that look on their face, and focusing on sending out compassion from your heart towards them. That can regulate your emotions inside of your body, can be really, really helpful. Another one is and this is completely left of center and coming from a different direction, is minimize stimulants. So protecting your energy can also sometimes be that stuff really rattles you when you are already on edge. You're already exhausted, you're already stressed out, you are already going at 1,000,000 miles per hour. And then something like this is happening and it's really throwing you off. And I remember when I was working in a tech company, I was having 4 or 5 coffees a day. I had no idea at the time how much caffeine was contributing to what was then a building adrenal fatigue that I wasn't aware of, and how stressed I was. I know people who are drinking cups and cups and cups of black tea every day. The same thing, stimulant, it's caffeine. Similarly, having too much alcohol, having too much medication, sometimes that can be detrimental. Definitely having drugs, whichever one is your recreational drugs of your choice. All these kind of things can really contribute to you already being jittery and on edge. So when then something happens, obviously that can bowl you over so much more easily. In a similar fashion, my 9th piece of advice is seek out balance. And that can sometimes happen through nutrition, that can happen through regularly getting a massage, etc. So again, if you are already stressed out, if you are already in slight imbalance, it's harder to be protected energetically when something happens on the outside that comes and wants to bowl you over. So finding balance, if you want to look into things like Ayurveda, there are incredible resources there that can help you. For example, if you have what we call a Vata body or a Vata mind, where everything goes at 1,000,000 miles per hour, where you're really sensitive, where you're often probably not sleeping very well, where you are just kind of very airy type personality. What you can give yourself is grounding, slowing down, and this can be through heavier foods, warm and nourishing foods, enough fat, not unhealthy fat as in putting on 20 kilos, but the right fats, healthy fats in your nutrition. It can be through sweet food, and that doesn't necessarily have to be chocolate and Coke all the time. It can be healthy things. And similarly, sometimes people are very fiery by nature. We call that a pitta constitution. So if you are by nature a very fiery type of person, again, what is it that can cool down that fire, that can relax you, so that you already just by your own efforts are becoming more relaxed, more peaceful, more centered in yourself. I was saying massages can be something, spend time catching up with good friends and feeling supported, etc. What is a self-care regime that you can put into place that really makes sure that you are at your best already in your default state, so that when you get hit by challenges, they are gliding off like water off a duck's back, ideally. And then come to number 10. One thing that I find really useful is to make it a general practice to show up as your best self. And I know that's sometimes easier said than done, but what I'm recommending here is have standards for yourself regardless in your life. Act from integrity, act from kindness and respect towards others, act from compassion, and basically do your utmost best to be a good person towards other people. It doesn't mean be a pushover, it doesn't mean do everything what others want, but have real clarity around what is a yes, what is a no for you, and do your best as best you can. Because then when other people come and criticize or try to shame you or try to rattle you, then yes, that might temporarily spin you out for a moment, but it's then easy to come back onto equal footing and a strong grounding, knowing I'm a good person and I generally do the best that I can. And yes, maybe over there the other day I made a mistake, and yes, I can apologize and do my best to fix it, but that doesn't mean anything about me. I know I am a good person. So this is something to come back to as well. Act with integrity across your life, so that at any given time you can look in the mirror, look yourself in the eyes, and know that you are a good person, that you are, as much as you can, doing the right thing, because that is something that nobody can take from you, and that will allow you to ground yourself back into who you are at any given point in time. I trust there's been value in some of those points. Obviously, not every point will be relevant for every person who's been listening to this, but I trust you've gotten some good food for thought and can expand on this from here. If you have further suggestions, further ideas of how to protect yourself from being energetically drained by other people, by criticism, by situations, then feel free to put them into our comment section below this video. And as always, if you like our content, please follow our channel and hit the bell button if you would like to get notifications about our next outcoming piece of content. Thank you very much and see you soon.